Okay, so let's talk about brush shapes. The first shape, and probably the most common shape for beginners, is the round. So this is a watercolor brush, and it has a round shape. And you can see as I'm turning it, it's round. Here's some other rounds. Rounds are just that basic kind of generic brush shape that you see like in your emoji of a brush. The most common size brushes for beginners, I would say, is a 6 through an 8 for like your basic round. And you can see here I have a couple different sizes. Here is a Grumbacher 10, a Grumbacher 8. This is a Grumbacher 6 and another Grumbacher 8. Or no, this is a Tintoretto 8. And this is a Utrecht 8. So you can see they're fairly standard. This is a brush from Italy, from Salvini in Florence. And you can see the Italian 8 is actually a little bit smaller. It's more like an American 6. So I guess it's just like shoe sizes. So depending on where you're getting your brush, just like buying jeans, the sizes might have a little bit of a variance. So that's the round. Second shape, and this is my favorite shape, is the Filbert. So the Filbert brush has this rounded top, and it also has, if you look here at the toe, you can see it doesn't point, right? So it's got this kind of graded cut to the brush here. And that's really nice because it holds the paint and makes a really nice smooth mark. So this is a really great brush for painting portraits, for really anything. I think the round and the filbert are probably the most useful brushes for painting in general, in oil, acrylic, watercolor, you name it. So if you're buying brushes for the first time, I'd pick up a number 6 or number 8 filbert and a number 6 or number 8 round. So there's the filberts. And then the third most common shape is the flat brush. So here's a flat, and you can see the flat has a blunt edge here. When you wet it, it should come to a chisel point. So see, I just wet it there. And see, well, this one doesn't really do it because it looks like we've been scrubbing with this one, but a really high quality one will chisel like this. And I'll make another video where I show you how to triage brushes and bring them back to shape, because that is possible to reform your brushes. But you would use this for making hard edges and also for creating flat washes. So these are useful for really precise edging. You know, you can use it this way, you can use it this way. And flats also come in these longer. You can get a longer, more like liner style flat. There's a type of brush that I don't particularly like, but some students like. It's called a flat. And a flat comes in both filbert and a bright comes in filbert and flat. So you can see this is a filbert bright. Brights have really short bristles. So you can see our regular filbert here has those nice long bristles. The bright is more for like small staccato type brush strokes and some scumbles and things like that. So the bright is kind of a specialized brush. Some people really like them, so you should maybe pick one up if you find one and see what you think. Finally, you want some detail brushes. So I really like these Utrecht Sablettes. These are synthetic, and you can see I'll put it in some water here, and it comes to a really nice little point. So this is a brush that I use quite a bit. These little detail brushes do not have to be expensive. Sometimes your favorite brush is going to be a cheap brush. So you can see these are the, gosh, who makes these? These are the yellow and blue brushes, I always call them. Low Cornell. These are cheap craft brushes. Really cheap. You can buy a whole package of these, and you can see these are pretty well worn. I use these all the time. These are great for lining. They're synthetic. They're cheap, and you can see these are pretty abused because I've used them a lot over the years. So if you see these little yellow and blue Lowell Cornell brushes in a pack, they're always worth picking up just to have some cheap detail brushes on hand. You will wear your brushes out. When you use them, the bristles will start to splay, they'll start to wear down. So especially detail brushes, they have a shorter shelf life, so it's always nice to have a whole bunch of those at the ready. Now, some specialized brushes. Like I said, travel brushes have a shorter handle. Some of them come apart and then you can take the bristle part and kind of put it inside the case. This one isn't like this. This is just a really simple small brush. If you have really big hands, this is going to be a harder brush to use. I really love this little puppy. I use this even when I'm not traveling. Another specialized brush is this. This is called a mop or a blender. Now I love mops. This is a baby mop. See, it's a silver. It's called a wee mop. Cute. And this mop has more of a filbert shape. So does this one. These do not come to a point. These are great for blending in oil paint only. So if you're working with oil and you want to blend, you can lay your color and you can just gently brush the top with this and it'll blend into a perfect seamless gradation. So when I teach beginning painting, I always have students get one of these. They're not super expensive this is a 1-inch for blending oil paint. The other use for these brushes is with watercolor paint. You can use these to create large washes. So if you have a big piece of paper and you want to make a big wash, use one of these mops for that, or use a large flat, which I don't happen to have one in the studio right now, but you know, those bigger flats are about yay big. Another specialized brush is another blender. It's the fan brush, popularized by Bob Ross painting his very happy trees. This is a really cheap little fan, but these can also be used not just for making the happy trees that Bob Ross paints, but you can also use these for blending. So typically these are a blender brush. So same thing, you lay a bunch of color with oil and you just kind of blend it. So if you wear makeup, it's very similar to the way you would blend blush or what is that, contouring. It's very similar. It takes a very light touch to blend. You just want to move the top surface of the paint. So these are the specialized brushes. Other specialized brushes are these. These are Sumi ink brushes. These are not good for oil or acrylic, but can be used for watercolor. And they make a big move on the painting. And you should be using these kind of upright like this. So those are the basic brush shapes. And by shape, I'm talking about this part of the brush up here, the fan, the mop, the round. The filbert. And let's just review. So we have the round, and you're going to want a 6 through 8 for a beginner. Filbert. That's also 6 through 8. You're going to want a flat. So for the flat, usually, you know, people use these for laying in. I usually say get a 10 or a 12 in a flat. And then you want details. And details usually are 0, 0, 0, 0, 01, 02. And then if you're working in oil paint and you want to do a blend, or you're working in watercolor and you want to do big washes, you might want to pick yourself up a mop or a fan. So those are the brush types. I'll put those descriptions in the video description as well so that you can copy them for your notes. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about the different kinds of bristle and hair that you'll find in your paintbrushes.